with all due respect.
Hey, we're Josh Ortegan and Gray Gaines, and this is With All Due Respect, the show where we keep it real about health, fitness, and performance. From weight loss to sports development, we're covering the conversations that matter.
Follow us on Instagram at Phnm Fitness, PHNM Fitness, and visit www.phenomfit.com to check out our training programs, coaching, and gear built for real results. Let's get into it.
All right, with all due respect, this is just Josh and Gray talking about stronger people live longer. And
love that.
I think this is from my personal experience for me, but also with clients where I tell them, your goal in life should be to build muscle and lose it slower than everybody else. From a functional side, from a health side, to a risk to fall aversion to metabolic health. Great. Why do you think why was this important for people?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a like kind of a running joke that I have or with the people around me, like my clients and the studio I was at for so long. Like strength is my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing to talk about. It's the thing that I'll go on forever about. And I love a strong person. And I love the push to be as strong as possible. And we know from many conversations, it's not the smallest version of yourself, it's the strongest version of yourself, whatever that looks like for you. So I always enjoy a conversation around strength training, what it looks like, what we should be doing, where the research is, and how we can be better.
Well, if you're young and you want to age wonderfully, watch this episode. If you're aging over 40 and life's starting to catch up with you and you want to have a great end of your life and just flourish, watch this episode. Check out phenomfit.com for workouts, consults, nutrition programs, and our book coming out soon. Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
All right, recording in progress. Guys, we did this one on a whim, and I think we got a good topic. And I think I think this really is so the reason this conversation, because we're going to talk about strength training and longevity as we age. Why is strength training important? We're going to title it Stronger People Live Longer. Okay. And the reason this kind of piques my interest is this is a huge selling point for me with most of my clients as we get older, is putting on muscle for longevity. So there's so much research around building muscle, longevity, how long we live. Look up sarcopenia, muscle wasting. When people ask me my personal fitness goals, I tell them my goal is to lose muscle slower than any of my friends.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I think just working in a space at a studio, our general population, I mean, there were people at that studio from ages like 17 up into their 60s, 70s, but main population is, I would say, women in their like 30s, 40s, 50s. And I love working in that space and a woman coming in and being like, I really just want to gain muscle mass. Like it's now cool to gain muscle mass, and it's being noted as important, which it always has been, but it's now very prevalent that it is very important for us to maintain muscle mass.
I have people come to me and say, I want to look like I lift.
Yes, I want to look like I work out.
And, you can be a little bit of a butthole on this subject too, because you can be like, well, a lot of people I know that have muscle and look great into their 40s, they had it in their 20s. And then they had it in their 30s. Then they have it in their 40s. This is going to be a challenge for the 40-year-old woman who says, man, I'm really ready to put on muscle and lift. Maybe, the kids are older. There's less going on at the house. She has the time to do it. And I said, well, because I've had this conversation with women, and I go, tell me what you expect. Well, I kind of want to lift 3 days a week and, go do this and really look like I put on muscle. And it's like, well, you're going to have to learn to really train hard.
In 3 days, yeah.
3 days. You're probably more likely 4 to 5. You're going to have to learn to train really, really hard learn to, deadlift and squat what you can, learn to bench, learn to do really big movements, learning how to do it. Strength is a skill. You're going to have to learn to eat, and you're going to have to learn to do all of these things that are a requirement for putting on muscle. Plus, you might be at a little bit of a hormonal disadvantage.
Totally. And that's not like, I mean, of course, that's because of your age, but it's also because you haven't been making any strides to your health up until this point,
Mhm.
So I think that something that women get wrong, especially, is they don't recognize how much work it takes and how long someone has been doing something.
Yeah.
It's easy to look at someone and be like, wow, they're fit, but they don't think about how many years has that person been into the gym, right? Like that's why I post regularly about like, hey, this is how I got my physique because I don't want anyone to think like I started this in June of 2024,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
started this in 2018, so 7 years ago at a young age too. So like, I mean, I was 22.
Yeah. When people, other fitness coaches or people that are in the industry, because, all of our algorithms are up probably all the same, outside of the fact that mine's a lot of pit bulls and jujitsu. Most fitness people have very similar. There's been things you've sent me. I'm like, yeah, I saw that today, right?
Hmm.
When I see people like fitness coaches post their client success, I always met contact them. Hey, how long did that take? They're like,
Hmm.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
Took 2.5 years to do that, right?
Mhm.
Managing the expectation is really hard. What people need to understand is there's a direct correlation to muscle and your mortality rate and good metabolic health, because muscle is very calorically expensive.
I knew you were going to say that.
I say it all the time, right?
Right.
It's why people are like, how many calories do you eat? They're like, I'm like 3,600. And they're like, 3,600? That's I said, yeah, I do jujitsu 3 days a week. I only lift 3 days a week now because of jujitsu. I would lift four. That was a big thing for me. To do three lower full body lifts a day that was a big mental thing for me.
Hmm.
Because my biggest fear is to not have muscle, right? It's like the psychological fear is to not have it.
Feel that. I was the same way. It's like when I started teaching and,
Yeah.
being on a bike 8 hours a week and then having to come off my weightlifting, which I was normally doing, 5 or 6 days per week. And I was like, I can only manage three, maybe four on a good week. So I get that.
Yeah. So three was tough for me, but I have tons of muscle reserve,
Yeah. But
right?
you've been doing it a long time.
It's been a long time. I watched uh interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and someone was like, "Hey Arnold, at your age, why do you still lift?" And he's like, "Well, why do I still eat breakfast? Why do I still do anything I do? It's because it's part of what I do. It's who I am. It's what I like. There's not a scenario outside of like a planned time off, being sick, going away for a weekend. There's not a scenario in my life where my workouts and jujitsu aren't in the forefront of where it's scheduled in my food
And
within.
even when I do, yeah, even when I do go on vacation, it's still like, all right, well, what gym am I going to be going to?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Like where am I going to be dropping in? Or like I'm about to go on the road for a month and I have re-downloaded ClassPass. I'm like, my first thought is, how am I going to get my damn workout in?
Because
You know?
because it's not like losing those 3 days is going to affect your physical physique, but that's part of how you feel good and
My
how you
mind. Yeah. You
mind.
bring up a good point too with the Arnold Schwarzenegger point though. Like, I would wonder how many people think that they're just going to get into this and start it and then not have to continue it. You know what I mean? Like they think,
How
oh,
long
I'm
do
just
you
going to
have to
work
live?
hard for 3 to 6 months and then I'm going to be done. It's like you don't get to keep the body that you built unless you keep working
I've
at it.
seen a lot of people do crazy transformations of their body, and then when it's over, um, they go back to being overweight. I've seen that happen a lot where people have made unbelievable changes, and then they like show this picture of them looking great, and then all of a sudden, like a year and a half later, you follow up with them, and there's they're kind of back because it never became part of their life, right? I think an important part here to discuss is once you hit 30, you're starting to lose a little bit of muscle every year.
Mhm.
And when you lose muscle, you weaken your metabolism, right? You
Mhm.
become less metabolically efficient. So you might not be able to eat the same calories you used to. Sugar will affect you differently. Your insulin sensitivity changes. Watch
But you
somebody.
remember too, women have children. So like, and it becomes a part of a man's life too. So I know you've been affected having a kid, but like your priorities shift as you get older as well. Because, me working out 5 or 6 days per week, I guarantee you when I have a kid or more than one, I'm not going to be
It
able to spend
changes. It
time
changes.
in the gym.
That's a real thing. Like I'm real. I'm very empathetic to the mom of three who has three kids under the age of 8 years old. I have two clients right now that have 6-month olds, and we've been training through the whole time, coaching through the whole
Yeah.
time.
Hmm.
And there are weeks that lifting just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Now they're so excited to get back to lifting, but we walk, we control our protein intake, are eating healthy, they're breastfeeding, we're still making sure we're eating enough calories. Like you just change the shift, but you do get back to lifting. So I do believe there is legit conversations from women who have a job and three kids under the age of 7 who are like, I'm not going to a gym. I can't. It's not.
Yeah. I have a client who has a 1.5-year-old, and she trained pretty much throughout her whole entire pregnancy and while he was born and like, while he's been growing up. But the way she trains is she gets up early in the morning and she'll hit 20 minutes. So she'll do like her warm up and her compounds in the morning. And then when he's down for a nap, she'll go hit her accessory work. So she has to break it into
House
two.
at the house.
Mhm. She's got a gym at the house. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
not everybody has that gym at the house, but
Right. But again, breaking it, I mean, you don't have to even have, the equipment that she does, but you could have dumbbells and bands and whatnot. And you can still
yeah,
break it into 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, wherever you can get it.
it is. It is. It's not impossible,
Yeah.
but again, another reason why the earlier you can start doing this, the better off you're going to be through those times.
Yep.
And if you're in your late 30s, 40s, and you're starting a lifting program, you're going to be metabolically at a disadvantage. Uh,
Yep.
I'll say this, one of the things that drive me is I don't want to be old and feeble to the point that you're one of those people that like, well, grandma fell down, broke a hip and died.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to be functional, and I know I'm just dropping pennies in the bank every
Yeah.
and every time I work out and every time I do something. And that is a motivator. But if you're a brand new person getting into this in your 40s, you have to manage the expectation because I have clients right now that are tell me all of these goals that they have as they're getting older. And I'm not going to say they're not possible.
Hmm.
We can do everything we can to get you there, from your diet, from your lifting routine to your workout routine or your eating routine, supplement routine, everything. But as you age, you're at a great metabolic disadvantage and you're at a great hormonal disadvantage. And I have conversations with men all the time, and they're like, hey, these are my goals. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. When was the last time you've had your hormone profile looked at? Because if you have testosterone level of 400,
Hmm.
50, 300,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't build muscle
It's gonna be really
or
hard.
reach the goal that you want. It's just not possible. That's a
Or
tough.
it's the same thing. It's like it's gonna take a really long time. So like whereas I tell most women I need a year from you to at least see change. It's like if you're going from a larger physique to a built physique, like that's not gonna happen in a year. Right? Like you might lose the weight in a year, but if you want to look like toned, that's going to take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, just depending on how consistent and intense you are with it.
Yeah, 3 to 5 years of really hard work can get you a very good place. 1 to 2, you can be somebody who looks like they really work out.
Yeah.
But what happens is you get people that go 2 to 3 months, they want to say, well, nothing's happening,
Right.
and they quit.
Right.
Um, that is tough if you don't manage that expectation on the front end, right? One important thing, as I've gotten older, I've always cared about how I looked. Once I hit a certain age, to me, it really became a lot about like brain function,
Yeah.
right? What does exercise do for the brain? What does it do for you cognitively? What does it do for mental health? I think there's a big proponent for strength training as we age
Hmm.
because your brain gets older, right? And I like the conversation around cognitive function and
Hmm.
lifting,
Hmm.
memory and lifting, fighting depression and lifting as we get older. To me, the weight room is the fountain of youth for people. It really is. Once you
Totally.
get weight training, I don't know anything negative around weight training unless you're a person that has some sort of medical issue. And still, I have a really good friend of mine. He was a football coach in the area for maybe 35 years. I'm being honest with 35 years. And he has rheumatoid arthritis and he takes medication. But I had a conversation with him recently because football's kind of starting to get ramped up. In the South, I don't think football ever doesn't get ramped up, but it's getting more ramped up. I said, hey, what's one of the biggest things that's helped you? He goes, weightlifting weights.
Hmm.
He goes, my doctor told me I have to start strength training. And he goes, that doesn't mean he's back squatting, deadlifting, but dumbbells and machines. He's
Yeah.
training. And he goes, and it's been a complete lifesaver for me with rheumatoid arthritis because I don't hurt as much as I would with strength training. So yeah, there probably are some things you probably shouldn't do if you have some injuries, but I don't know anything right now, and somebody can comment if you're a medical doctor, where strength training isn't going to have some sort of benefit in your life, regardless of what you have.
100%. I mean, and that's becoming more known in so many different cases. Like the cases of, anxiety and depression, or of hormone replacement therapy, even GLP-1s, like all of those things, the medication plus exercise,
Mhm.
right? Like there's so many different things. Or now there's studies coming out with Alzheimer's disease,
Yeah.
and the creatine, the strength training, the nutrition piece of it. It's becoming more and more important. Like, again, we've always known it's important, like at least from our end, but now it's showing like the long-term effect over and over and over again.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine is the athletic trainer and was at a National Athletic Trainers Association conference recently, and she screenshot and sent me a text about uh concussion. And she's like, hey, I know you talked about this a ton. Look at they're starting to do the education around creatine and post-concussive research and recovery from concussion and creatine usage. And that's been something Mike's been on for a long time, and I've talked to kids about it a lot.
Yeah.
Mostly kids that I can talk. Some kids, if I don't know your parents and we don't have a good relationship, I don't talk to you about supplements because I don't know. You know, you mentioned creatine to the wrong parent, where their kid's still attached to the titty, and the
You're
mom's
gonna lose your job.
well, you're just gonna get a parent that's gonna be like, that's dangerous, but it's dangerous, and you're trying to sell my kid steroids and like a creatine. You just get a lot of idiots out there, right?
Right.
Don't discount the fact that there's a lot of idiots out there. But she's like, man, they're talking about creatine and brain function. She's like, you talked about it before. I said, yeah, I talk about it a ton, right? I think so. That is directly to, I think, brain function, creatine, lifting for people as we get older, because, my family does have a history where the brain will go before the body. And I think that's one of my biggest fears in life.
Oh, same.
is that my brain goes before the body, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'd rather it be my body goes before my brain or my brain goes before my body. I really don't know.
like them to work on the same path.
Same. Same. Just let me go
Let
easy.
them go, both go, slowly
Yeah.
but surely at the same rate. But I've been around people where the brain goes first, and it's frustrating to experience, but it's frustrating to witness also, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm getting to the point where, like, if I forget something, I start to, like, I get paranoid, right? Like if Rachel's like, "Don't you remember saying that?" It's like I have no recollection of saying that.
No, you need to remember that we got a lot going on right now. So it's not
Yeah,
you.
well, for you right now, like,
No, you too. You too.
oh yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, well, that usually that's my own fault, right?
Right. Exactly same.
Myself.
But no, I mean, there's just so many unreal benefits that are often looked over because the number one thing that people see is what your physique looks like, right? So people are like, well, I want to look like that. And they forget about, I want to feel like that, or I want to move like that, or I want to perform like that, or I want to sleep like that, right? Like I
No,
want to live as long as that.
such a good. So that's a good thing you bring up. A little bit off topic, we can get back, but um, you did a before and after picture, a yellow bikini. Is there a yellow bikini
Of
you have?
me,
Yeah,
maybe, probably.
I can't remember, but like you look like rocked up, like you got like the little V-shaped ab, and you can see your hip flexors, and this might be a picture you put up where it might be the leanest you've ever been. It's the leanest I've ever seen you.
I think it
So
was
yellow.
green bathing suit.
Green, was it green?
Yeah,
I
because it
mean,
was COVID. The best shape I've been in lean wise was COVID because I all I did every single day was move.
yeah, yeah. And it was a before and after, and you're like rocked up, man. You can always tell a female that's rocked up from, like, to me, when they have the shoulders and the biceps tricep, like the shoulders and
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It was last year. Yeah. I was
the
in good shape then too.
it
Yeah.
was the shoulders and the arms. And when I see a girl, I'm like, wow, shoulders and arms. Because to me, I don't know, again, I don't know if this is research based. Upper body muscle gain for a female seems to be the challenge to build a strong upper body.
I
Female tend to have stronger lower bodies just based on the hips and the lower bodies. But when you see a female with a rocked up upper body, you're like, she's put in work. Like we're at church. There's this girl at church, and she was walking in, and I look, and Rachel's next to me. I'll go, she's like close to competition. She's like, how can you tell? One, her face looked destroyed, right?
yeah,
Like,
like
yeah, she was about to get. So she turned and looked at me, and she had that sunk face. But like the arms and biceps, triceps, and she was rocked up. And Rachel's always like, yeah, it's just so much muscle for a girl. She's like, you like that. And I'm like, well, hold up, time out. I understand when
how
I
much?
see a female who looks like that, what it tells me is, one, she's disciplined.
Hmm.
I understand the hard work. She's had to say no to a lot of things,
Hmm.
sacrificed a ton. She's put hours and hours and hours and hours of work into something on her own by herself. And this could be a guy as well. And I know what it takes to do that. And it's the character and the personality and the commitment it takes to do that, which I think is really cool because it says a lot about somebody that you can. It kind of tells me you can suffer on your own.
Totally. 100%. And I think the reason that you're probably drawn to it on a female or with a female perspective is because men are always perceived as having more discipline as a female. So when you've seen a female achieve that, knowing like the struggle that goes into it, there's so much respect there, you know?
Yeah, it's hard. That's
Yeah.
really hard. And the gym culture has changed, but the gym has been seen more of a space for males in the last 30 years. That's changed, right?
Yeah.
But
Yep.
or 1990 or the mid 90s, when the kind of the fitness kind of thing blew up, seeing a female look like that, oh, she looks like a dude, right? She looks like a dude. And I just understand the work ethic and the aesthetics that it goes looking into that. So I do think that women want, and this might be a stretch. I think there's a lot of women that want to be perceived as strong women, not just physically, but mentally. And I think when you look like you work out and you have muscle, you present a little bit of being a strong woman. And because of your recent TikTok hate, I want to clear this up. I am not saying you have to be in shape to be a strong woman. I'm not saying you could be overweight and still be a strong character, personality woman, be successful, and even be beautiful. I have to say that, right? Right? Have some empathy, Gray.
Okay.
Which is funny to me because you're one of the most empathetic people I know. And like when people say you don't have empathy, I'm like, just moving on.
Literally screw you.
Yeah. And so, I'm not saying you can't, but there is a presentation you show to the world a little bit when you have that physique. That might hurt some people's little pretty little feelings,
It goes
right?
back to my whole point that like you have to be mentally tough to achieve physical results. You have to. And that people can perceive that in any kind of way that they want to, but tell me any person that you know that has changed their entire physique that's not mentally tough.
Erica.
She's mentally tough. That's what I'm saying.
Erica
Like
and Erica
any
West.
person you meet.
Erica has done 2 podcasts with us. She's lost 164 pounds. She's on TikTok, she's on social media, shares her story. I knew her when she was 318 pounds. We've now done 2 podcasts with her. She's lost that much weight. She's lost 164 pounds. That's not a bitch you want to mess with. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying. Like that is the whole thing that, and people want to get on to me when I say that you have to be mentally tough because they feel soft about it. You cannot be mentally soft and achieve results. It's just not, they don't go together. They don't. They don't. You can be mentally softer around some things. Like, of course, I have softer things about me, but to work hard as fuck every day for what you want requires a lot of mental toughness.
Well, she will say in her TikToks and in her videos, you better get some thick skin, honey. If you want to go down this journey, you better get some thick skin. And here's the deal, too. If you go down this journey, you're going to expose a lot about yourself, a lot of things about yourself that you didn't know were there that are going to be more challenging than going. Listen, Rachel said this to me a couple days ago. She goes, well, a lot of people don't have what you have because you're a robot. And I said, yeah, but that was practiced. That was routine done. Like one, I'm not a super, I have 2 things going for me. Okay. Well, 3. One, I work in the industry.
Yeah.
I will admit that that is an advantage I have by working in the industry, that I have access to a weight room and education and equipment and things a lot of time around me. A lot of friends. That's an advantage. 2, I'm not super social. Okay. So the social aspect of hitting a routine for workout, exercise, and nutrition doesn't bother me because I don't have to say no to a lot of social things because I don't have a lot of social things. It's just not where I'm filled up. So it's just not where I'm affirmed. Okay. The 3rd thing, I'm not a foodie. I could care less about what food tastes like. I could care less what the meal is. I have eaten ground turkey with salsa in it, with a side of cottage cheese, grapes, and then warmed up a package of vegetables, poured them in something, and shoveled them in my face, and that's a meal. It doesn't. It does not affect me. Like I will look at the food I eat and be like, I don't care.
Yeah. So I understand the point where she's coming from because it does feel very
But I do
robotic.
have an advantage. I do have, and it is
Yeah.
robotic. Like I can change. So I put this stretching routine in.
Hmm.
Very big thing for me, and it was in the back of my head to do it. We had the
Hmm.
podcast with Jordan Syatt, and that podcast kicked me to be like, today, we're going today. And I got a long version, a short version. I have to make the decision to do that every day before it fight hits me. I have to know I'm going to do it tomorrow. The decision is made because if I just think about it as the day goes, I'm not going to do it. So you have to schedule your workout, you have to schedule your nutrition, you have to schedule your grocery, you have to schedule time to cook, you're going to have to do a lot of things that are going to have to take discipline.
Yeah.
Right? And the discipline's going to come before the inspiration. So there's a lot of times I've done my stretching program at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. Like
Oh, I got to do it.
I do firmly believe that you have to sacrifice parts of yourself to be successful, but not all of yourself. And I think I would probably argue I'm a prime example of that. I'm very social. I'm a huge foodie. I
Yep.
travel more than I sit still.
Yes.
I do everything, but I sacrifice my time no matter what to eat well, to sleep well, normally sleep well, not so great the last couple of weeks, and to exercise. Like I've already got my exercise scheduled while I'm gone, you
Yeah.
know? So that it's the difference. It's like you either are willing to sacrifice that time and to put yourself first. And it doesn't mean that I have to work out the same routine that I've been doing, but I need to get in the gym at least once a week while I'm gone, you know? But I have to make that sacrifice and I have to choose that. And that's why I think like the further I get into this career, the less I am feeling empathetic with excuses. I do understand when things happen. I do understand I've had clients with family members pass away while we've worked together. I've worked with clients that have suffered through miscarriages for years. I am very empathetic when these things happen. But that kind of excuse is not the same to me as like, oh, well, there's a concert this weekend, and I'm just like, instead of having one fun night, I'm going to have four. You know, that's the difference.
If we jump back into, stronger people live longer.
Hmm.
So the longevity benefits of strength training and why you should strength train as you get older. We're always going to run into myths, right? We always listen, the internet world is full of junk. I have clients hit me up all the time with like, oh my gosh, this just popped up on my social. What do you think about this supplement? I'm like, oh, like, come on, right? Three things that I think of that happen when you get older and you want to lift. Three things. I'm too old to lift. Lifting is dangerous for older adults.
Hmm.
Cardiovascular is better for longevity. Now, I will say this. I believe that there's probably more research to VO2 max and longevity, but there's also a ton of research to muscle and longevity. So what does that probably tell you? That it's both.
The gray area. Yeah, that's what I was just
Right.
thinking.
It's both. We don't have to polarize this thing. We don't have to say, well, you're better off doing VO2 max stuff, zone 2 walking for longevity. Okay, you're better off lifting. Well, guess what? It's not and or, it's probably both.
Hmm.
I need to do both. The first one, that you're too old to lift, is wrong because I've seen so many trainers and so many people improve the quality of people's life by getting their 70-year-old grandma to start learning how to kettlebell deadlift.
Hmm.
I have a friend of mine, I almost call him a client, but I've known him for years and I help him with all his nutrition program, lifting. He's just a good friend of mine. He's invested into me. I invested in him. He's 68, 69 years old. He has a fake hip. And my man is in there in the weight room hitting safety bar back squats to a box,
Hmm.
lunges. My man's hitting belt squats for 240 pounds for 20, right? He's a big guy. He's lost 70 pounds, manages himself from a hormonal standpoint at 69 years old, super active, coaches football. But like, I often forget that he's 69 years old because my man can go in the weight room.
Yeah, that reminded me, my client that I had before this, he's 69 as well. He'll be 69 in a couple weeks. And I just posted this video of him on my story and
I saw it. Yeah.
talking about, yeah, his squat depth used to be nothing. Like he could not squat.
Yeah.
And part of that's fear, you know? But
Yeah.
like this today was everything to me.
Yeah.
Like how low he is getting.
Yeah.
That, I mean, nothing fires me up more than that because I just want people to remember that like you can achieve those things at whatever age that you want to start this at, right? Like, of course, like you talked about, there is going to be some limitation inside of what you're capable of doing, but he's still training for life, right? Like he doesn't need to go out and squat his heaviest squat he's ever done. But he's like, I have a goal of being very mobile and strong for me. And so like that already tells you that the mobility aspect from his squat of being able to just like barely pop down 4 years ago to now, like, I mean, he's literally like, look at me touching my elbows to my
Yeah.
knees. Like that is,
Yeah.
he's training for life. Like he'll be able to get up off the floor safely. He's strong enough to do it.
I say to people, lifting is not bad for older people, but bad lifting is bad for everybody.
Yeah.
And that means I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a young person, because we talked about weightlifting for young kids.
Hmm.
Poor technique and poor loading is going to be bad for every population. So if you're a person getting older, over 40, over 50, maybe even into your 60s, find somebody to show you how to exercise. Find people that can actually train you to teach you how to move in the weight room and manage a weight room, what
Hmm.
proper loading looks like to lift within your limits. Because I just know too many people that get into lifting, they hurt their back in a lifting routine and then they're done exercising. And they say that their narrative is lifting hurt me, so I don't want to lift anymore.
Hmm.
And bad lifting hurt you. Let's say
Yeah.
bad lifting hurt you, right? Um, I wouldn't take a brand new kid and throw him in a Ferrari.
Hmm.
Right? So no, at any age, lifting is beneficial. Lifting won't hurt you when done correctly. Um, so regardless of where you're at, find somebody that can help you. Cardiovascular zone 2 training, if you want to look it up, is great for you, and lifting and the combination is probably the key to longevity, is doing that. I love the older people that I know that get into lifting and start to love it. It
So
is so
fun.
to be have them ask me like, "Do you think I'm getting a bicep?
Hmm.
Do you think I'm getting shoulders?" Like it's
Hmm.
so cool to see that. And my man that's I told you that's 69 years old, he's not showing a sign of aging poorly. My
Yeah.
man is going to live forever unless something
Yeah.
catches up to him. Because
Yeah.
he can squat. He had a fake hip. And about 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, he and I met. And he's like, I got to lift. I got this fake hip. I'm nervous. I'm a little overweight. What do I do? So I literally took him to a weight room and like I showed him how to split squat.
Hmm.
So nervous because of the hip. Showed him how to squat. So nervous because of it. Now my man's messaging me and being like 185 on the hole, touch my butt to the ball with Hatfield squats. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. He's like, I'll go. Now him and his buddies meet 1 day a week now, and they go push sleds.
It's just fun.
That's awesome, man. Like, and you're out there like I don't ever want, Eric Wilson was on the podcast talked about be capable. Man, I
Hmm.
don't ever want to not be capable. And the best way to be incapable is to get weak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if let's think about strength training principles for somebody, right? If you're watching this podcast and you're like, all right, I know I got to lift, getting older, or even if you're a female after 40 and you want to get lean and you want to kick menopause or premenopause in the face because you're not going to let it be a victim. You're not going to be a victim, right? Don't be. There's nothing worse than victim mentality for me. That makes me vomit. Is the victim
Yeah, it's happening to me. Everything's happening to me.
right? The Joe Rogan calls the can't catch a break guy, right?
Yeah.
Can't catch a break guy. I just play the poor violin, right? I feel so sorry for you. Maybe that's not empathetic. I don't know. I don't know if people know what empathy is, but empathy is
Again,
not
in the
pity,
line.
right?
Yeah.
Empathy is definitely not pity. Empathy doesn't let you run from accountability and responsibility either. It's not a crutch. I'm sorry for the things that happened to your life. Sorry. That sucks. Everybody's got a sad story. The world needs ditch diggers too. You do something about it, right? Um, if I'm going to tell somebody that comes to me that I want to start lifting, I say, okay, we're going to find a way for you to squat, hinge, lunge, push, and pull. And we're going to pick a few things and get really good at those. Doesn't have to be pendulum rows. It could
Hmm.
be lat pull downs.
Hmm.
Teach the press. Doesn't need to be bench press. Could be machine chest press.
Hmm.
Could be a goblet squat, a goblet box squat.
Hmm.
Could be a kettlebell deadlift. But we're going to pick these movement patterns. We're going to find 3 or 4 exercises in each movement pattern. And I just want you to try one of those exercises in one of those movement patterns 3 days a week. That's it. You got those movement patterns. We're going to pick 3 exercises. You're going to do one of them on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You're going to do the other ones on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to pick basic movement patterns and exercises in the gym that you like to do that you can do. And you need to lift in a challenging, I don't know how you feel. I think a lot of people don't work out hard enough.
Oh yeah, and we've done an episode on that.
Yeah, but Mike will tell you the opposite, right? Mike Wines, who we do podcasts with, you got to think he sees a lot of people that are poor nutrition, poor sleep, overtrained. I think he spends a lot of time with people telling them to pump the brakes and focus more on rest and recovery and nutrition.
I think there's a difference. Like I think the difference is that a lot of people who do go to classes overtrain in that way and are not very stress resilient. But then you also have people who go to the gym and float by and don't really like put any additional thought into programming, and they do the same 6 to 8 exercises every single week, and they use the same weights every single week, and they don't challenge themselves cardiovascularly.
Yeah,
I
showing up
think
is
the
part of
two can be very true.
showing up is part of the deal, but showing up ain't enough, right?
Right.
Like, so for people to be like, "Hey, I went to the gym 4 days this week," I'm like, "Yeah, I saw you do incline chest machines and then some bicep curls, and you walked 20 minutes on the thing and went home."
Yeah.
Checked off a box, right? I find this when people talk to me about getting better at jujitsu. Like, I'm going to class 2 or 3 days a week. Yeah, but your drilling sucks. Your rolling sucks. You never grab a hard partner, and you're the first one out of the gym.
Yeah.
Like, that's why you suck at jujitsu, right?
Yeah.
Think
So
putting
that's
up.
what I think there's a difference. Like I think people might be, again, when they're in a class setting, they're probably overtrained cardiovascularly and undertrained weight wise. And in the same way at the like a regular gym program, they're probably undertraining. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Because a lot of these classes do focus on a cardio basis, right? It's a lot of HIIT classes. It's a lot of cardio. People feel like they're working really, really hard, but we do know that weight training shouldn't always be really fast with high reps, right? And it should be very heavy and you should take rest time. So there's just a difference, I think. I think the two are both true.
When you think about the older population,
Hmm.
you think about nutrition.
Hmm.
And looking at some of the clients, I used to have the thought, we know that as we age, we need more protein. I used to think it's because we absorb proteins worse, but it's not. We use protein not as efficiently the older we get. It's not that we absorb it slower. We use it like they called it anabolic resistance.
Hmm.
So as you age, you need to increase your protein, which is hard because so many people. I had a 240-pound client this week. I'm trying to get him to eat more protein, and I started slow. I literally told him 120 grams of protein, and he would have thought I was asking him to eat golf balls. He's like, "That's a ridiculous amount of protein." I'm like, "Not really."
I can do that by breakfast.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, I'm at 120 by 2. My goal is 2,000 calories, and my goal is 2,000 calories and 120 by 2.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I have so many females half your size doing 120. And then well, what about cholesterol? Nope. Well, what about blood? Nope. What about, protein in your kid? Nope. So I do think as we age, look into it. If you need to get more protein. Um, I do think there's some benefits to supplementing.
Yes.
Men, there's things like zinc, vitamin D, magnesium, right?
Just a good old multivitamin.
Good old multiple vitamin. Um, I find that the older you, this is just, again, this is a narrative I'm explaining based on my experience. I'm not saying this is true. Younger people sleep better. Older people tend to sleep worse. Again, I'm not saying there's research on it.
No, I know. I'm just thinking about
That's
that.
in my experience with my
I think it would
clients.
just depend.
My younger people tend to sleep better
I
or
would tell,
more. They sleep longer.
yeah, longer, maybe not better, but
Yeah.
I think that older people do sleep in shorter spurts. But I do think that, I mean, I would just say from most of my population that nobody really sleeps that great.
Yeah.
That's something we always be
I know
working on.
it's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. Talking about the lifting and the sleeping. So if we got somebody who's getting on this, stronger people live longer,
Mhm.
stronger people live better.
Yeah,
People
totally.
with muscle and people that walk and people that could, put a little bit in that cardiovascular work. But if you're somebody that wants to start a routine and they're getting older, I'm gonna say you can reach up. Be patient.
Mhm.
You better not say like, "Well, I need to have this ready by December because I need to look good at Christmas and it's July."
Yeah, not
Yes,
happening.
you can make changes. Is it probably going to be what you want? Probably not.
I mean, realistically, with discipline, you're probably going to lose about 4 to 6 pounds by Christmas if you're disciplined, realistically. And that is even for people that, they're hitting that 80% mark. You might lose a little bit more in the beginning, especially if you're a bigger individual, but on average,
And most
it's
females of
slow.
normal weight, 6 to 8 pounds is a pretty good clip,
Mhm.
right? That's a good amount of weight loss. So, hey, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed us and not somebody else. I feel
I
like
was gonna say, let us know if you miss us just doing episodes. I feel like we need to do one every once in a while. We need to pop on here, just
I
us
know we
two.
know cool people. But all right, we appreciate you guys watching. With all due respect, we'll talk soon.
Bye, y'all.